across the country, the Midwest and South are experiencing the first Arctic blast of the season, bringing frigid temperatures and snow. We'll show you how the impacted people are handling the cold. Plus, a mission to Mars is delayed, and astronauts are stuck in space. We'll take you out of this world later on. And water is a crucial part of farming, but for decades, farmers haven't known exactly where their water goes. Now, how satellites are helping track every drop. Happy Tuesday, November 11th. It is Veterans Day. Let me first start by saying thank you to all who have served our country. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti, and welcome to Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. We begin today in the Northwest. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is in Spokane, Washington, watching the dense morning fog that already had an impact on the morning commute. He's now tracking if these foggy conditions will continue in eastern Washington.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. It's been an interesting morning in Spokane, Washington, where we've seen quite a bit of some heavy fog. But as we go through the morning hours, some spots just drop that fog immediately. Others are going to hang on as long as possible, so always makes for a very tricky forecast. We start with a live picture over Silver Mountain. Yeah, you can see the low-hanging cloud cover, but this is 6,000 feet up. I've been way more interested in what's happening at about 2,300 feet, 2,000 feet, 1,800 feet of elevation, which is the gap that covers the South Hill to downtown and back up towards the airport, that 500-foot elevation difference. And it's been making a big difference for this patchy fog this morning. Funny enough, some of our own coworkers were driving up the hill, and it went from kind of foggy to extremely foggy to perfectly sunny in the space of 3 blocks. It can happen just like that when it's foggy. We'll also be tracking a bit of rain for the second half of the week. So after midnight, we had our first dense fog advisories issued, this time for a wider swath of the inland Northwest. We used a weather impact alert day to match that as well, but it's been just breaking up and chopping up as we head deeper and deeper into the morning. This will end at 11 a.m., though we have seen quarter-mile visibility as a result of some of the heaviest fog, especially if you hit it at just the perfect elevation. As we take a peek at I-90, this was at about 7 a.m. And yeah, that low cloud cover / fog just hanging close to the ground. I think funny enough, in this corridor where the elevation is about 1,800 and 1,900 feet, you were just under the worst of the fog, though the cloud's hanging just above your head. As you head up towards the airport, probably ran into a lot of that fog, especially on Sunset Highway. So that was a situation we have been tracking all morning long. It can get very complicated for something that seems so stable like fog is. Now into the afternoon, we'll enjoy at least a little bit of sunshine once that fog breaks, but there is kind of this general flow of cloud cover and flow of moisture that's aimed at the inland Northwest. Just nothing just yet for today. I think tonight and tomorrow morning is our next chance of rainfall. I think that the fog will hold temperatures in the mid-40s today in Spokane, but mid-50s if you're on the Palouse in Pullman. Funny enough, mid-40s is actually just average. So this is a pretty fair November day for us, even if you do include the fog. Now to the rain part of the forecast. For that, we go to Future Tracker, which will help to simulate this for the next 24 hours. Bit of light rain at first, very late tonight, almost at like midnight. And then at 6 a.m., there's this line of rain that will be with a warm front passing through the region. So light rain on Wednesday morning, probably affecting the commute there, but temperatures will just slowly climb for a couple days. Then we get a bigger storm that swings through on Thursday. This is our wettest day. Though the difference here is that we're still under the ridge side of the jet stream, just barely, meaning that our temperatures will stay just warm enough. So the next 2 days will be our warmest 2 days. They're also the wettest 2 days of the forecast. Hence, we are still only forecasting rain and no snow just yet.
November, when the warmest days are in the 50s. Well, in western Washington, on the other side of the state, something not commonly seen in the region in mid-November is sunshine. Meteorologist Rich Marriott is tracking the mild weather today, but that will soon transition back to wet conditions into the weekend. Rich has the latest from Seattle.
Hi, I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and it's turning into a nice day around western Washington, though we did start off with some areas of fog around. Some of that's still out there burning off at mid-morning, but should be gone by this afternoon. We're on track to see quite a bit of sunshine today, and Tuesday's going to be a totally dry day. It may be the last one for the next week, so you want to get out and take care of any things you want to get done without them getting wet first, like maybe move the leaves, things like that. And there in Port Angeles this morning, it's got the sun up and looking pretty nice, looking out there towards the strait. And checking there in Everett, not looking quite as nice. You can see the sun trying to burn that off, and it will here within the next hour or two. That's going to go away. Should be in pretty good shape a little bit later on. Overall, we've got a couple places that have some poor visibilities. You can see some out there in the distance from the Columbia Tower Cam, but also a lot of blue sky as it zoomed in there on Mount Rainier. And checking those distances, visibility from the airport, you can see down the south sound fairly low, only a few tenths of a mile down in there, but you don't get down into zero visibility until you get south of Olympia in the traditionally foggy areas, and that should gradually improve during the course of the morning. And by this afternoon, even Olympia and probably Centralia and Chehalis should start to clear out. And elsewhere, though, we're already starting to clear out fairly quickly now that we have the sun up and helping to burn that off. Checking the next 7 days, like I said, we're really not looking at any more dry weather after today. There will be breaks in the rainfall, but basically it's kind of one system after another. The one thing I would say, though, is these systems look considerably less wet than the ones we had earlier in the month. So we'll continue to get the rain, which we need, but we'll get it in smaller chunks, which will be a little bit better way to handle it. So we're probably not going to see as much standing water out there, or probably as much in terms of the leaves coming down and clogging the drains overall, because they're not quite as windy either, and hopefully the trees are running out of leaves gradually. And you can see those temperatures gradually starting to cool a little bit as we head towards the end of the week, which would be good because our snow levels have been running a little high for the ski season. Checking that time lapse down there at Avanti High School in Olympia. Put this in just because the color is so nice. You get that early morning sunshine there on those trees in the foreground. Really a nice shot. And you see the fog there is kind of burn off and then kind of comes back, so it's kind of sloshing around down there in the South Sound, but should be gradually going away as we head towards a little bit later on this morning. Looking at the computer model, you can see we do have the system off the coast. That kind of develops during the day today, and we will be dry through the day, it looks like, and that will start to swing in here. Tomorrow morning, we might see a few sprinkles or showers as it starts to approach us with the warm front, but then the main push comes in during the afternoon and evening. That's going to kind of soak us down as we head into Thursday and keep us wet through the day on Thursday. That moves on through. Another one moves through during the day on Friday. Might get a little bit of a pause as we head into Saturday with showers and sun breaks, but then it looks like we're going to see things get wet again as we head into Sunday as they continue to march on through here. So definitely dropping back into a wet pattern around western Washington. If you headed up to the mountains, the shot from Hurricane Ridge, very pretty. You can see some of that marine deck cloudiness, the low clouds out there in the river valleys, but the striking thing is that this was totally covered in snow about a week to 10 days ago, and now all back to the brown grass. It's all melted or rained off at this point, but we'll start building it up again, I think, as we head into next week. Shot there from Mount Rainier from Paradise, looking pretty nice this morning, but again, that's a little above 5,000 feet, and mostly the snowpack that they developed has gone for the time being. Not unusual for that to happen. Looking at the passes, no driving problems across Snoqualmie, Stevens, or White Passes, or even North Cascades for that matter. They all have bare and wet pavement this morning, so in pretty good shape. And checking those snow levels, they remain high here for the next few days, between about 7,000 and 8,000 feet. We do get front through as we head into later Thursday, which is going to drop our snow levels briefly down to about 4,000 feet, so down to the base of like Crystal and Stevens Pass, but they pop back up again on Saturday, but then start to fall again and drop back down to about 3,500 feet by Monday, and it looks like next week we're going to hover probably between about 3,000 and 5,000 feet, which should start to build a little bit of a snowpack, especially in the middle to top part of the ski area, so that's a little bit of good news. Down here in the lowlands, we're going to be looking for the fog and low clouds to give way to partly to mostly sunny this afternoon. High temperatures into the mid-50s. Increasing rain as we head towards the afternoon and evening tomorrow, mid to upper 50s. Looks like rain at times for Thursday and for Friday. Showers and sun breaks Saturday. Another round of rain increasing during the day on Sunday, and then partly sunny with just a few showers Monday, but definitely getting cooler as we head towards Monday with the highs right around the 50-degree mark. And if we look at the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook, you can see definitely running cooler on those daytime high temperatures. So that's a sign we're going to be looking at some lower snow levels as we head towards towards the end of the month.
To the other side of the United States now, an Arctic blast could bring inches of snow and potentially record-setting cold to parts of the eastern and southern United States today. Meteorologists say areas as far south as Florida could reach historic lows before the polar plunge is done.
And it's too cold. It's too early. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. It needs to heat back up soon because we're freezing.
Forecasters predict snow near Lake Erie today. Some Midwesterners are still digging out after double-digit accumulations yesterday, while others were embracing the snow. This Wisconsin man, oh, ouch, that burns, says he marks the first snowfall each year by making snow angels in his swim trunk.
Traditionally, I've done this since I was about 10 or 11 when my stepfather came into my life. As a dare, he made me do it, and I've been doing it ever since. About 30, I'm 34 now.
I guess some people do cold plunges, so same thing, it's just frozen. The storm is hitting as the air traffic controller shortage is also impacting air traffic controllers across the United States. Karen Kafa has the latest from Washington on the travel mess this Arctic blast is causing across the country.
Their flight from New Orleans to Chicago was canceled, but when they hopped into a rental car north, Grace Butler and her boyfriend encountered another snag in Illinois early Monday. The cascade of flight delays and cancellations related to the government shutdown has met an Arctic air mass poised to chill the eastern two-thirds of the country. Monday's big snow totals branching out from Chicago and around the Great Lakes and compounding an already messy situation at some major airports.
I'm exhausted. I am tired. I am mad. I had to call the customer service. They couldn't give me anything.
Delays due to air traffic controller staffing shortages began early Monday at airports including Chicago's O'Hare, Phoenix, and Dallas. This after the worst weekend for air traffic control staffing since the start of the government shutdown, as controllers are asked to continue to work without pay.
When the most disciplined safety workforce in America is forced to think about survival instead of public safety, this is the cost.
Some passengers exhausted by a lack of options.
When I got here to get my flight to Seattle today because they didn't have Portland, the Seattle flight is delayed, so I cannot get to Seattle, so I cannot get the train to get to Portland.
Meanwhile, the Arctic blast has the potential to bring record cold temperatures Tuesday morning as far south as Florida. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
And air travel is not the only mode of transportation having difficulties. In Chicago, the snow has caused accidents as drivers struggle with the slick roads. Meanwhile, in Indiana, the roads are completely covered and crews are working to plow the streets as residents are breaking out the winter jackets. So as the West Coast watches that cold unfold on the other side of the country, we can be thankful for the overall mild weather here. But still ahead after the break, we're going to head to California with a look at how rain is going to be impacting parts of the state all the way from the north to the south. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Before we get to our California forecast, let's take a check on Feng Huang. It's been downgraded from a typhoon to a tropical storm. Still, it brings heavy rain and strong wind to northern and eastern Taiwan as it moves closer to the island. The storm's approach prompted many schools and offices to close. Forecasters warned that the combined effects of Feng Huang and seasonal northeasterly winds will intensify rainfall in the north. The storm is expected to make landfall in southern Taiwan on Wednesday before tracking northeast and weakening further. And as a reminder, Feng Huang heads to Taiwan after tearing through the Philippines already. New video shows a suspension bridge swinging, oh my goodness, wildly as the typhoon tore through the country. It sustained winds up to 15 miles per hour. More than 1.4 million people were evacuated, and at least 18 people have died. And also just a reminder, a typhoon is just another name for a hurricane. All right, let's get back to California. We have multiple disturbances heading toward the west coast into the end of this week and the weekend. While the Pacific Northwest is locked into the brunt of that moisture, California will only tap into some of that precipitation at times. The first system does look to impact the entire west coast from Washington to California. Let's now send things over to meteorologist Monica Woods in Sacramento with expected impacts for Northern California.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and I'm tracking a big change in our weather pattern. Atmospheric river heading our way after sitting with highs in the upper 70s to near 80 over the weekend. And to kick off the week, we're now expecting a lot of rain and some snow for the higher elevation. So let's go ahead and time it out. Our headlines includes our weather impact alert. When for Thursday, the impact being rain, wind, and snow. Need to expect travel delays, not only in the Sierra, but down low for the valley as well. And this hits for the morning commute. So this big pattern shift, the timing begins late Wednesday with increasing winds, and then the rain will soon follow. So the impacts will be for the morning commutes, as well as trees and the potential for some minor power outages. For winds, those will start to pick up late Wednesday, lasting through Thursday, with the biggest gusts again, kind of in line with the precipitation coming through early Thursday. For the Sierra, we're expecting snow to drop below the passes down to about 5,500 feet. So prep now. Get the leaves out of the storm drains, as well as the gutters and the decorations secured and tied down, and get ready for those big delays for the commute. Our high-resolution futurecast showing the increase in cloud cover for our Veterans Day. Then as we head into our Wednesday, most of Wednesday is actually dry, and then we'll start to see the coastal communities hit with the rain early on and then move its way through the valley during the day and evening. It initially starts off as rain for the Sierra, but then the snow line will come down as we start to tap into some of that colder air coming in by later on Thursday, dropping that snow line well below the passes. Futurecast rain totals, we're calling for about 1 inch to 1.5 inches throughout the valley. Higher totals northwest coast, Eureka, over 2 inches of rain expected over a 2-day period. And as far as snow, we're going to be monitoring the potential for 6 to 24 plus inches for the Sierra, with many passes impacted from that. So again, for Thursday, it's a weather impact alert. For the valley, longer commutes and windy conditions. In the Sierra, snow dropping below the passes. But then we start tracking another storm at the tail end of the weekend. That's on Sunday, with the valley experiencing colder conditions and showers. For the Sierra, snow and more travel delays. Not terrible timing considering we're getting awfully close to Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of the ski resorts want to start opening. Highs in the 60s for our Tuesday forecast, 70s as we head down into the foothills as we move our way southward through the central Sierra. This is going to be one of the areas that will be very hard hit with Thursday's storm, but in the meantime, Tuesday looks good. Highs in the 60s with 70s down low as we move in towards the Central Valley. Our central coast still pretty for our Tuesday. Highs are going to be warming into the 60s and 70s. Inland areas we're still kind of flirting with near 80-degree temperatures through the San Joaquin Valley. Moving towards the Bay Area, highs are going to be upper 60s to near 70. As we move towards the Delta, highs still hanging on to the 70s before dropping for the middle and end of the week. 50s and 60s along the northwest coast. As we move inland, the north end of the valley will be in the low 70s, and we'll see for the most part low to mid 70s throughout the capital region and the northern San Joaquin Valley, with lows falling into the 50s. But as we expand this forecast, we really get some active weather coming in on Thursday. It dries out pretty quickly Friday and Saturday, but our extended forecast certainly showcasing our weather impact alert on Thursday, with periods of moderate to heavy rain and gusty winds. We see rain returning again on Sunday and much cooler weather. Highs will only be in the upper 50s to near 60 by the end of the weekend into early next week.
Thank you, Monica. San Diego's sunny reputation does not reign true this week. That massive storm is also heading down to Southern California. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz is in San Diego tracking the arrival of rain down south.
It's Tuesday. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Happy Tuesday from San Diego, California. We have a lot of changes on the way. Things are dry for now, but it's about to get pretty juicy looking ahead to the end of the week, all due to a cold Pacific storm that is going to tap into an atmospheric river, bringing a lot of rain, much needed moisture to California. As we take a look at headlines, temperatures are going to drop ahead of that storm's arrival. We are talking about not even a 20-degree drop for our most populated neighborhoods, but some of the mountain and desert areas will see about a 25-30 degree difference in temperatures when we compare what we saw today versus what we're expecting towards the end of the week. As far as the rain chances, they look to be most abundant, widespread come Friday and Saturday, and we'll take a look at the models and the totals in just a moment. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service to our veterans and our active duty service members. Here's what's on tap. Going to be fairly nice with some clouds in the mix. We'll be in the mid 70s for the coast and mountain areas, high 80s for the inland valleys, and low 90s for our deserts. We were so warm that we broke daily max records yesterday. Temperatures are cooling down a little bit as we're getting into your Tuesday, but we're still trending well warmer than we should be for this time of year. All right, here is the rain chances in kind of this meteogram here. Percentage wise, it looks like it soars Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Before it looked like it was going to arrive Thursday and Friday. Now it's looking like it's going to stall for a little bit before arriving towards the end of the week, impacting our weekend now. So this ridging is going to move out of the way. In will come this trough of low pressure, dipping into a lot of moisture well above in the atmosphere, or well high in the atmosphere, pretty much a column of moisture, precipitable water. It's going to first bring rain to the northern half of California before diving south, churning off the coast of California, southern California, bringing us rain as early as Thursday night. But it looks like the bulk of the heavy stuff will be Friday afternoon, and it could linger all the way into Saturday, Sunday, and maybe even Monday. Now, when all is said and done, the bulk of the rain is just going to be to our north in LA, Ventura, Santa Barbara counties. As we take a look at the color contour here, notice that key top right of your screen. Santa Barbara will likely take the cake in terms of the rainfall accumulation, getting close to 3 inches, close to 2 for spots like LA, as well as Long Beach. And even here in San Diego, especially when we talk about the northwestern quadrant of the county, Oceanside could get close to 2 inches as well. The timing totals, they will change the closer we get to Friday. We know for sure, though, that temperatures are going to drop and we will get some beneficial rain. As far as the coastal and inland areas go, we'll be in the low 70s for a couple of days, and then we'll shoot into the low 60s for the coastal areas by the time we get to the weekend. The difference in temperatures is going to be pretty extreme when we talk about the spread. Comparing Wednesday and Friday, we'll go from the high 70s to the high 60s by the time we get to the weekend. For the mountains and desert areas, we'll be in the upper 70s, so still really warm come Wednesday, and then things are going to take a turn. Thursday is our transition day into that cooling pattern when temperatures really just drop. They come crashing down Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Overnight lows are also going to be very cold, about 5 degrees above or that freezing temperature of 32 degrees. High 80s all the way through Thursday, low 80s Friday, and then 70s return by Saturday.
Thank you, Vanessa. Sweating is one of the body's defenses against heat. Yes, sweating. After the break, scientists will take a deep dive into how it actually keeps us cool. While we may be shivering this week, let's just close our eyes and imagine it's summer again. Sweating may be uncomfortable, but it's also one of the body's most powerful defenses against extreme heat. At Arizona State University, researchers are taking a closer look to see how sweat and salt work together to keep us cool. Ashley DeMartino explains.
A few years ago, ASU created a first-of-its-kind outdoor sweating mannequin named Andy, the first experiment to understand how the body cools itself in extreme heat. The next phase of the project used real human subjects.
We used what's called a liquid perfused suit, which astronauts, for example, wear under their spacesuits, except they are passing cold water to cool, and we pass alternative very hot and very cold water to induce sweating and then cool off the person.
The process taking about 3 hours to get a person in the heat suit, sweating, and then using a micro camera to zoom super close and watch how the sweat glands turn on and off. It turns out our sweat evaporates out 3 times more than we originally thought.
Second stage, it ends up spreading farther along the skin and evaporating, so it kind of cools you quicker, faster for the same amount of sweat or dehydration you have.
The key part turned out to be the salt deposits left behind in the process.
That salty sweatiness, can that actually help keep us safe in our heat here in Arizona?
I don't have an immediate implication, and I wouldn't recommend you not taking showers to cool off faster. The whole idea is trying to identify some kind of physical process that's dominant that we could then try to think of ways to manipulate in a way that makes us feel safer or feel better and be cooler and safer.
The more you know. Still ahead after the break, the Northwest is getting hit with a lot of rain this week. We'll show you the timing of impacts in Idaho and Oregon. Today is Veterans Day, a time to pay tribute to everyone who has served in the United States military. Veterans Day dates back more than 100 years to November 11th, 1918. That's when the truce between U.S. allies and Germany to end World War I was signed on the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower officially named it Veterans Day. It is a federal holiday. Most banks and post offices are closed today, but grocery stores, retailers, and restaurants should stay open. Many restaurants and coffee chains are offering freebies and discounts to veterans with a military ID as a thank you for their service. Be sure to check your local area for any events to honor those who have served. Well, Idaho is far enough inland that the multi-day rain chances we've been telling you about aren't quite as dominant there, but Boise will still tap into some rain this week. Let's get to Hector Mendoza in Boise with the forecast there.
Well, what a beautiful wrap up to the day it was yesterday with this sunset photo posted on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page by B-Glass out in Idaho City. But again, you could see just those beautiful colors in the skies with some of those clouds that we saw yesterday. And even looking at some of the temperatures from yesterday, they were pretty comfortable into the upper 50s for the most part, staying around those mid 50s there for Ontario, even places like in Nampa. But as we start to make its way on east and south of Boise, we saw those temperatures climb up into the low 60s, including places in the Magic Valley. We stayed around those mid to upper 50s in portions of Haley and McCall, so the central and west central mountains, sitting right at 50 in Stanley. And that's pretty much where we're anticipating some of those temperatures to stick around as we do continue with this ridge of high pressure. It's going to keep us pretty comfortable all the way through Thursday. But then as we get towards the afternoon, we see this system that's going to bring some changes, and we're going to see cooler temperatures. The winds will start to pick up through Thursday afternoon. We're going to see some rain that's going to start to make its way through as well, staying unsettled all the way in through the weekend. So as we look at some of the totals we've seen so far in terms of snow totals, we've only seen about 10 inches out in Brundage at the base of the mountain. Then we saw at Bogus Basin not too long ago, got about 4 inches of snow. Total out in Pomerello is about 6 inches, but Sun Valley and Tamarack not seeing anything measurable. Have seen some snowflakes fall in some of those areas, but haven't really seen a significant amount like we've seen in other spots here in Idaho. But we're anticipating tacking on to some of these numbers, and that's going to be the same conditions we're expecting here for Boise in terms of rainfall, as we are anticipating adding on to this number and trying to see if we can get closer to some of the monthly averages we see for November, getting just a little above about an inch of precipitation for the month of November. And we're anticipating starting to see that add up as we head on into Thursday and Friday, as we're going to start to see a system that comes in, and that's what's going to bring us those chances of some of the showers there. It'll continue to stay pretty increased there through Friday morning before we start to see those chances diminish. We look to see a bit of a break there as we head on in through Saturday, and then we're anticipating seeing the return of another system that brings us more shower chances, but it looks like that we start to see it diminish just a little bit as we get on towards the beginning of next week. But as we speak about about some of the rain, we're also going to talk about some of the snow showers as we start off Thursday with some of those snow levels staying up pretty high, around 8,000 to 9,000 feet on in through Thursday. But as those temperatures start to drop, as you look there, about 10 degrees there from Thursday and through Friday, we also see those snow levels start to drop between 5,000 to 6,000 feet. And we are anticipating by the time we get into the weekend, we'll start to see a little bit more of that accumulate. And most spots look to see around 1 to 3 inches in some of those areas, and anywhere above 6,000 to 7,000 feet. We're anticipating a little bit more to come along as we head on closer in through Sunday. And as we start to look at some of the conditions that we're going to be seeing here later on in through the day, we are going to anticipate some of those temperatures to climb up, especially as we look at some of the valley spots back into the 60s. So we look at 62 degrees here for today. We'll see those cloudy conditions coming along there for Wednesday. Shower chances will return there on into Thursday before we see a huge drop in temperatures from the low 60s to the upper 40s as we head on in through Friday. We get a bit of a break on Saturday, and then temperatures will climb up just a little bit before we see another cool down that comes along in through Monday. And that's pretty similar to what we're going to be seeing here in the Treasure Valley, as we're anticipating a little bit more of that here through the rest of this weekend.
Thanks, Hector. Oregon, on the other hand, is one of the areas that will bear the brunt of the multiple storms heading our way this week. Meteorologist Rod Hill is in Portland with the forecast for Oregon.
We have ourselves a completely dry Veterans Day. That's good news. 2025. I'm Rod Hill down in Portland, or over in Portland, or up in Portland, depending on where you're watching from. We're kind of in between weather systems today. The only thing we're really watching as a forecaster is the system to our south, parked off the coast of California. It's going to be throwing some thicker cloud cover up our way from the south during the day, but we don't believe there's any rain attached to it. This system out to our west, the next front that actually the front that we're watching is right back here. That's the one that's going to develop, slam into this cloudiness. These clouds come in tomorrow, and then we get the rain at times coming in Wednesday overnight, maybe Wednesday evening, we'll see. What caught me when I was doing my forecasting this morning was that the rain systems, which are still showing up for rain at times Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but all of a sudden these are much weaker systems than what they look to be, and all of a sudden they're warmer as well. Meaning no longer am I looking for snow over Cascade Passes. So we're all dry today on this Veterans Day. And then for Portland, at the earliest, our first showers show up tomorrow evening. Maybe that doesn't happen until the overnight going into Thursday morning. And I mentioned a series of weak rainmakers Thursday through Sunday, snow mostly above passes. Now, at one point I was looking at maybe a little wind burst Saturday night along the coast. That is no longer showing up as these systems overall have weakened and warmed as well. So here's our Futurecast movie, all dry this morning. You're going to see these clouds, see them come up from the south. It's really the only thing I'm watching today. So our best chance for much of the Willamette Valley, Portland, Salem, to have some sun breaks. We'll be wrapping up into early afternoon, and then just solid clouds, I think, this afternoon. Here's tomorrow morning, still dry. Tomorrow afternoon, maybe some rain showers start nipping along our coast. And then again tomorrow evening, or maybe not until the overnight into Thursday morning, we start to see some rain push into the Willamette Valley. So these rain totals represent 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. So 4 days of rain in November, totaling 76 100ths in Salem or 89 100ths in Portland, means that, you know, each day gets some rain, but not much. I mean, at most, we're probably looking at one of the days. Could be Thursday, getting 1/4 to 3/10 of an inch of rain in the valley, and that's it. So that's just some decent little rain coming in. This does show 1 to 2 inches of rainfall along the coast expected. Our cameras, I mentioned we do have a mixed bag. It has been gorgeous in Lincoln City this morning. Sunny blue, cloudiness expected to increase along the coast. It's been sunny blue up over Mount Hood, where again clouds expected to increase somewhat during the day. And notice there's some patches of snow, but there's no snowpack. It was a week, this week again a year ago, we talked about this yesterday, that our resorts actually opened for daily operations. All of a sudden this November, unclear as to whether we'll have enough snow to open up for Thanksgiving weekend or not. We'll have to wait and see. And that's not unusual. It's just that last year we had that really early start. There's our state capitol, still some pretty fall colors. There are the clouds over Portland. Here come the forecast temperatures. Some 60s, but mostly 50s statewide. This shows another partly sunny 63-degree day in Bend over in Central Oregon. Beautiful. Portland 7-day. I still like 58 today. Dry tomorrow, 58. And then with rain at times or showery weather, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, overnight lows in the 40s. Daytime highs mostly in the mid-50s. And I carry a shower chance into Monday of next week.
Thank you, Rod. We have more to come here on Weather Out West. Your forecast for Phoenix and Denver are still ahead after the break. Well, if anyone misses warmer temperatures, you can still head to Arizona, at least for now. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is in Phoenix with the big cool down arriving by the end of this week.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. We'll look at your weather out west across Arizona where, yeah, we've got some firsts coming our way this week. The first snow of the season and the first time we are looking for below normal temperatures for the entire month of November. Now, it's not settling in to the latter part of the week into the weekend. Today, we're starting to see a little bit of cloud cover overhead. These are just thin clouds, really not having a big impact on the bottom line. As you can see, temperature-wise, yeah, we're still above the normal range in the upper 80s today in Phoenix. I've got 86 in Tucson, about 70 in Winslow, 67 in Flagstaff, 80 in Kingman, 87 for Bullhead City, and still 90 degrees in Yuma. But as we look ahead, oh boy, look at this temperature drop from the upper 80s to, yes, the upper 60s. The storm system that we have coming in has a lot of cold air associated with it. So combine the cold air with the moisture, and that's the formula for the first snow for the higher elevations. Now for you and me, I think we're talking about some rain. Let's take a look at this. Phoenix on Friday. Now this should be late day on Friday into Saturday morning. We've got a healthy opportunity for some rain moving through. This is really going to amplify for the higher elevations for high country, 70% to 40% on Saturday. And then it does start to taper off on Sunday, but we still have some opportunities by the early part of next week. And then for the White Mountains, it looks like it's more going to gear up on Friday, starting to get aggressive on Saturday and peaking on Sunday with about 50% of the region of the White Mountains looking for some rain. So what's happening? Well, high pressure, it's starting to push on out. And here we go. Pacific Northwest storm fueled with quite a bit of moisture and cool air. You can see how the jet stream is sagging. There's a wind component to this as well. We're going to get some snow in the Sierras, and then that moisture is going to come our direction Friday into Saturday. So earliest will be about, I'd say Friday, 5-ish, 4-ish. And then it's really starting to get active by about 7, 8 a.m. on Saturday, starting to push through the region by about 5 o'clock on Saturday night. So again, Friday night through Saturday night, we've got healthy opportunities for some rain. And the rainfall totals, I mean, they're rather aggressive at this point. But remember, that moisture coming in from the northwest is getting fueled by a Pineapple Express. So there's a lot of moisture coming in from Hawaii, but then all that cold air dropping in from the northwest. So as you can see, yeah, we're in the blue. What does that mean? Over an inch of rain expected for Phoenix. I mean, closing in on an inch and a half, over 2 inches in Scottsdale. Now, this is still a long range forecast model, so it will change, but obviously we are in the plus category by almost an inch and a half. Normal rainfall to date, about 6 inches. So we're looking to really add into the buckets. Again, that's toward the latter part of the week into the weekend. Today, it's going to be sunny and warm. We've got some clouds out there. I'll call it partly cloudy tonight as we drop down to about 62 degrees. But then the numbers, wow, really start to come down as Flagstaff. You need to prepare for the first snowfall of the season. Here we go, 60s to the 40s. And here in the Valley of the Sun, well, not too sunny this week. Instead, temperatures are hanging out in the 80s through Thursday, dropping by Friday as that storm starts to push in. And then we are going to be in the upper 60s this weekend with rain expected Friday and Saturday.
All right, brace yourselves, Arizona. Before we get to our forecast from our friends in Denver, take a look at this. A couple of rowdy bucks are back in the Colorado wild after crashing into someone's house. It all started early Sunday. 2 bucks were butting heads and fighting when they fell through glass and into a home's basement. The homeowner called State Parks and Wildlife. 2 officers showed up with tranquilizer guns and put the intruders to sleep. A crew then used a tarp to carry the bucks outside. They were later tagged and when they woke up, released back into the wild. All right, staying in Colorado, our final forecast today. Let's go now to Denver, where our team is tracking dry conditions in Colorado.
Hello, I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin saying hello from Denver, Colorado, where we have enjoyed kind of like a summer-like pattern in fall, all compliments of high pressure. This latest ridge building in again, pushing the storm track to the north on the heels of a polar vortex and Arctic cold front, which brought cold air all the way down to Florida, where temperatures this morning in Tampa were in the low to mid 30s. That cold air is quickly retreating northward today, but this is the part of the country that we think will have the biggest impact from cold, rain, and snow. Here on the northwest flow aloft, we just have all of this high and mid-level cloud cover overrunning the ridge. There's a weak front that's going to cross northern Colorado, but all the precip and energy stays north of us. So really all eyes on the Midwest and Northeast because they have seen a huge snowstorm at many of the major airport hubs from Chicago, even a little bit of snow outside of Atlanta up to Washington, New York, and Boston. That cold air pushing all the way into northern Florida. It's a short-lived cold air event, but it's really been one that everybody's been talking about because of freeze warnings, winter weather advisories, things we don't typically see in this part of the country all that often. And it's pretty early in the season to be seeing this. So around here, we're high and dry. We're in between storms, showers off to the west, snow and cold off to the east. And so we're just enjoying a beautiful day. There'll be a few thin high clouds that come in and just a beautiful afternoon with temperatures trending above average. Again, our average high is 55. Sunday we were 44. Monday we were 73. We'll probably be in the low 70s again this afternoon, which is really unusual. And we may crack the top 5 for latest first snowfalls in Denver the way we're going. So Veterans Day forecast looks great. Above average temperature trend to the end of the week. Mountain snow coming in Friday. Cooler weather for Denver Saturday and Sunday. And maybe some much needed moisture, probably in the form of rain.
I'm Weather Impact Team Meteorologist Jada Knowles here in Denver, Colorado, and Denver has been extremely dry over the last month. I'm talking about extraordinary dry. The last 15 days consecutively with no rain or snow in Denver, and that's really and 30 of the last 31 days is what we've been seeing. So how dry have we been? Well, the driest place in America is Death Valley, California. They only receive about 0.05 of an inch over the last month. Since October 8th here in Denver, we've only received about 0.07 of an inch. So that's basically nothing, and that's very similar to what Death Valley, California has seen. So is it safe to say that Denver might be the driest place in the America so far? Well, hopefully all that will change. But the main thing I was telling you about these statistics is really just because we need to water the trees. I know you've already probably blown out your sprinkler systems, but your trees definitely need that water, along with chapstick and lotion. Have you been using that a lot? Well, if you have been using it, it's because of science. Our dew points has been extremely low, and our temperatures has been a lot warmer. We've seen 70s today as well as yesterday, and really just throughout this week. But here's the good news. The good news is the next 8 to 14 day outlook for precipitation, we have a pattern flip as we head into the weekend. So next week, we're going to be talking about cooler and wetter. So that is some good news on the horizon. Finally, we don't have to wear so much chapstick and lotion for next week, as well as maybe finally just letting Mother Nature water our own trees.
Thanks, Jaden. Still ahead, we're staying in Denver. We'll show you how farmers are using satellites to help track water usage. Farmers in the U.S. are looking to outer space to help them grow better crops. Our station in Denver shows us how they're using satellites to get better insight into farming.
If you've ever eaten Doritos, good chance Joe Walgren grew the corn in those chips.
We grow a lot of grain for them.
He doesn't just harvest with his combine, he collects information.
It's just a wonderful tool to gather data.
And farming on the scale he does, good data can save dollars. But for decades, a key piece of that data puzzle has been missing. Farmers could measure how much water they pumped, but not where that water was going.
Just because the water gets poured onto the field doesn't mean the crop is actually consuming that water.
And across the High Plains, that's a problem. The High Plains Aquifer, the biggest in America, holds a lot of water.
You could fill several of the Great Lakes.
But some parts have become dangerously overdrawn.
There's areas where we've pumped so much water that we can't get water out of it anymore.
So to better measure where the water is going, Jim Schneider and his team are looking to the sky.
They've been flying these satellites around the Earth since 1985. It's called the Landsat satellites.
The satellites use thermal sensors to measure evapotranspiration, ET, which shows how much water crops and soil are sending back into the atmosphere.
ET is usually the missing component to balance the water budget.
But until recently, that information wasn't widely available. A cooperative effort called OpenET is changing that. OpenET puts the Landsat information in a format farmers can actually use.
The lighter yellow colors are less ET and the darker is more ET. If you zoom in, you can see that it's being measured on a field-by-field basis.
So it's literally telling us how much water the crops are using. It's really beyond what we were ever able to do in the past.
That's better data. That's actionable data.
A little science in your snack coming from space. In Nebraska, Brad Hicks reporting.
Now that's interesting. 3 Chinese astronauts have been forced to extend their 6-month stay in space over concerns their return ship may have been hit by debris. The trio was supposed to return last week and had even handed over the symbolic key to the Chinese space station to a new crew. China's space agency says impact analysis and risk assessment are underway. Also, NASA will have to wait to launch its dual satellite mission to Mars. The Escapade mission was set to lift off Sunday on Blue Origin's new Glenn rocket, but the launch was scrubbed due to weather. The mission is aimed at studying why Mars lost its atmosphere. It will also test a new orbital path that could pave the way for future planetary missions. Blue Origin says it's reviewing options for the next launch window. Well, that does it for us here on Weather Out West. Thanks for sticking with me for the last hour. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Once again, thank you to all of our veterans on this Veterans Day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.